Hi everyone, how's everyone doing? Excited? So for those that don't know me, I'm Vinod. I'm a VP in the Search Ads Quality team here at Google. Over the years we've had the fortune of hosting some amazing musicians and artists. I've been in your seats eagerly awaiting their appearance and wanting to ask them questions. But it is an exceptional honor to be able to host someone of the caliber and the type of repertoire that Ustad Zakir Hussain brings to us today. As many of you know, Ustad Ji has won numerous awards, the Padma Shri, the Padma Bhushan, the National Fellowship for Arts, National Endowment, and also 2 Grammys, just to name a few. I did not realize this till recently, but he began learning tabla at the age of 3. And he was touring by the age of 11. His first tour to the United States was in 1970, and his typical concert year has 150 concert days. Just think about the mind-boggling volume of that. And as I said, I've been a huge fan. I remember seeing Ustad Ji at places like Shanmukananda and Prithvi Theatre in Bombay, Madison Square Garden in New York City, and of course closer to home at the San Francisco Jazz Center. So it's really a personal privilege for me, and please join me in a huge round of applause in welcoming Ustad Ji to Google.
Hello everyone, good afternoon, namaste, suswagatam, khushamadid, all that, benvenue, whatnot, everything. It's great to be here, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Did you just say that I played 150 concerts daily? That would be a trick. I'd say maybe 150 or so a year at one time, but now I'm semi-retired, so maybe 160.
Well, as someone who's been following you, even getting 3 of those a year is just exhilarating. And again, thank you so much for being here. I understand you've just come in from London.
Yeah, I just came in from London. I went to do the London premiere of my concerto for tabla and symphony orchestra at London's Royal Festival Hall for the Alchemy Festival. And so that happened about 4 days ago. And I had been commissioned to write this piece. It's the world's first tabla concerto, involving the full symphony orchestra, like a San Francisco Symphony or something. And so it's now been premiered in Mumbai, and Switzerland, actually Bombay, Switzerland, and now London. And its American premiere is slated for next April at the Kennedy Center with the National Symphony Orchestra, which is the Kennedy Center Orchestra, and then some other concerts all over America. So that's the new thing.
That's awesome. And so sometime next year we should stay tuned to...
You might be able to see it here, maybe at the San Jose Symphony or at the very, amazing Google Symphony Orchestra. Fondly known as in Maharashtra as Google.
Or in cricket terms as googly.
Googly.
So as you can see, we have a ton of what we call Googlers. We call ourselves Googlers here, keeping with the theme.
And we are Googleplex.
Yes, we are the Googleplex.
Yeah.
We also have folks who have joined us via YouTube.
Oh, hello YouTube. Hi folks.
We have questions from folks in the audience as well as folks inside Google, but also your fans worldwide who've submitted questions. So you'll see some of them come up today.
Wow, that's very kind of them to, tune in, and I'm flattered that you took the time out to come and see me and hear whatever BS I have to Speak.
So to get started, thought it'd be interesting to have a little bit of a word association game.
Word association.
So
Okay.
if you can just like tell us what's on your mind when you hear any of these words,
Okay.
Take us through your journey of those words, if you will. Family. Travel.
Love, actually.
Okay.
What's the next?
Travel.
Pain. It is a 4-letter word. Yeah. Oh, it has to be musical? Pain has to be musical? Oh, wow. Pain.
That is amazing. Technology.
Future.
I'm glad you didn't say pain again.
No.
Teamwork.
Respect.
Thank you. So you started learning at the age of 3. Is there anything you remember from that time?
Well, first of all, I don't think I started actually learning at the age of 3. I don't think I really had a say in when I actually started learning. You're in a music home, you're in a musician's home, you're in a drummer's house, and he happens to be your father. From the day you're brought in from the nursing home where you were born, you really are inducted. You know, you don't have a choice. And so it was the same with me. What happened with me was when I was brought home after, I think the second day after I was born, and they hadn't yet chosen a name for me. So it was baby Qureshi. That's our family name, Qureshi. So could have been male, female, whatever. They weren't sure, Anyway, so even nowadays I sit in an airplane in a seat and a stewardess comes from here and says, "Can I get you something, ma'am?" It's got something to do with it. I don't know. I was brought home, handed up to my dad in his arm. And the tradition was, okay, the father is supposed to recite a prayer in the baby's ear, welcoming the baby and put in some good words, So he takes me in his arm, puts his lips to my ear, and recites rhythms. He did dhagitate, dhagitate, kirdatate, and my mother was livid. She said, "What are you doing? You're supposed to say, prayers, not these rhythms." And he said, "But these are my prayers. This is how I pray." He said, "I am the worshipper of Goddess Saraswati, Lord Ganesha. And this is a devout Muslim talking. And this is the knowledge or vidya I got from my teachers. And I want to pass it on to my son. He is going to do exactly this. So why not start him early and give him these prayers?" So that's what I mean when I say inducted already. I had no say in it, like it or not. You're not going to hear, Lambodara Lakumi Karamba Sutta, whatever. You're going to actually hear Dha, Din, Na, and like it or not. So from there on, I think it was his routine every day to sit for an hour or so or two singing rhythms in my ear. And the way he held me, this ear was closed, so it stayed in. So anyway, so I sang, those went in. So by the time I was 3, when I could actually reach the tabla and had hands slightly bigger to get onto the tabla, I already had all this information in my head and this big jumble, confusion, which I had really no idea what to do with. And so that's when the tabla was put in front of me, and I started to hit it. And at that point, my father decided to use reverse psychology. So now instead of putting rhythms in my ear, he just disappeared. It's like, okay, no more learning or hearing those nice little things which put me to sleep. None of that. I was suddenly having to fend for myself. And I guess his whole plan was not to overdose me with the stuff, so I would just go away and not want it. It was more like giving me a little taste of it, and then he pulled back to see what I was going to do with it. And at that age, I was being put on a spot to make a decision, to commit to this or whatever. And so I guess my what should I say, the feelings or my instinct brought me to commit to it, and I started playing with it. And if I didn't have the tabla, I would steal my mother's pots and turn them around and play. Once or twice I did it with the food in it. So I mean, you know what that did. So anyway, that's how it all began. At the age of 3 till when I was 7, I rarely saw my dad. I'm sure he was lurking about, looking to see what I was doing, whether I was interested or not. But it was mostly his students who would occasionally show me, or do this or do that. And they would speak something, and I would already know it because it was already here. And then it was a matter of just putting onto the drum. So it started becoming easy. But once I was about 7 years old, and I had already started doing school concerts, playing in my school things, inauguration day, this day, that day. So on one of those occasions, he came to the school to hear me play. And I played, and that was done. And after that, went home, and at dinner, he says to me, "Do you want to study this seriously?" And, I jumped at it because this meant being with him and having him there. So I said, "Yes, of course." So he said, "Okay, tomorrow we'll start." So that was a very exciting night for me, except for it ended early. He woke me up at 3 a.m. I was 7 years old, and so when everybody slept and it was quiet, no phones ringing, no nothing, and we sat like this in our veranda and spoke rhythms and talked about the masters, talked about this great tradition and where it came from and what it represented and the importance of it and the reverence that it requires, and etc., etc., etc. And so for the next few years, that became the routine. For a 7-year-old, get up at 3 a.m., sit with him till 6, have breakfast, get ready, go to school, but on the way to school, detour to the madrasa, learn to recite the Quran, and then cross the street and assemble in the St. Michael's High School church and sing the hymns, and then go to the classroom and start learning, come home, and then after lunch practice. So that became the routine. So I went through a confusing, for many people, being connected to Lord Ganesha and Lord Shiva and Krishna and Saraswati from between 3 and 6 a.m. And then between 7 and 7:45, dealing with the Quran, and from 8 to about 8:20 dealing with the church and the hymns and the psalms and so on. And then, of course, going to school and then the tabla. So, but what was interesting about that was none of these institutions ever imposed their will on me or any of my fellow students. It appeared to be a natural thing to do. It felt like a normal thing to do. It wasn't like, okay, I was doing something that the mullahs in the neighborhood will not like, or something that the pundits will, ban or whatever. None of that. And I was not made to feel like I was, I should do this and not that, do that and not that. It all appeared to be part of one thing, as it is, as it should be. I mean, neither the Bible or the Torah or the Quran or the Gita or Ramayana, whatever, none has said anything different. They've all said, love thy neighbor, and that's basically the gist of it. So, and it appeared to be that way as in my childhood. So I grew up, married my wife Tony, who's here. We had 3 ceremonies. I have to give 3 wedding anniversary presents. Life is not easy, I'm telling you. So we first did the civil marriage, then we did the church wedding, because of, the family. And then to appease my father and mother and stuff, we did the Muslim nikah ceremony. So in 3 different time of the year. If it would have happened on one day, it would have been easy. But now I have to remember 3 wedding anniversary dates on 3 different times of the year, and all that. So, and that, and my kids being baptized and all that, it has not felt that I'm struggling to have all these thought processes in any way coexist in my mind. And this comes from, in the childhood, being exposed to all of this as something normal. And it was same with my music. I was, everybody says 2,000-year-old history, and you have to play 20 hours a day for 20 years, and then you might be able to get some sound out of the instrument. I think that's pure BS, but that's just me. But I was never subjected to that kind of thinking. I was always like, okay, do it, and it's normal, it's fun, it's, take it easy. So without the pressure, I was able to study. So there were different periods from day 2 till 3, ding, 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 from 3 to 7, pack, 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 boom, 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 pack, 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 all that stuff. And then from 7 onwards, really getting involved into the mantra with my dad in the mornings, and then studying. And then up till about the age of 11 or 12, that carried. And then I played my first professional concert in India at the age of 12, got 100 rupees, man. You could buy a lot of carrot halwa with that. Many gulab jamuns later, I said, oops, I should bring some of this leftover money home, shouldn't I?
Well, now we know a couple of your favorite desserts, at least, for your next visit here.
Wow, good,
So
thank
we'll
you.
make sure. So you mentioned your wife who's here. Thank you so much for joining us.
And my daughter is here.
Yeah, and your daughter too, Isabella.
Yeah.
How did you all meet?
How did we meet? Well, there was this Jack in the Box. No, actually, I don't know if it was meant to be, but it just so happens that my first ever concert in America was in a concert hall in New York called Fillmore East.
Yes.
We have a Fillmore West here in the city, next to the Dosa place. Anyway, so Fillmore East, and that happened to be with Pandit Ravi Shankar. I came in because my father was not feeling well, and so he was not able to make it. And I just happened to be next door in Germany. And believe me, in those days, for an 18-year-old, it was piece of cake. Walk into the American embassy, give them your passport, say, I want a visa to go to America. Oh, no problem. 10 minutes later, you have your passport. Nothing like, do you have a ticket? You have somebody who's going to look after you. Where are your bank balance sheets and all that stuff? Nothing. None of that stuff, and your appointment letters and none of this. So he said, come over from Munich and play with me. So I went to the embassy, got the visa, arrived in New York. There's another story to that. But that was my first concert, and it was on February 22nd. And that is my wife's birthday. My first ever concert. So maybe it was destined, maybe, I don't know. But I arrived, played with Ravi Shankar. Then I ended up in University of Washington in Seattle as an assistant professor, teaching. I was 19 then. And so I was teaching there. And then, out of the blue, I get a call from Ustad Ali Akbar Khan, the great Sarod maestro, who has his music college in Marin, and said, my tabla player has upped and gone. Would you come and teach? So, any tabla player in the world would give his left leg to do that. Hands you can't give. So, or a thumb, or like Karan or whatever. Anyway, so I said yes, and I gave up my university job and came down to Marin and joined. And a few months later, I was sitting in Ali Akbar Khan Sahab's living room, and we were just there, and in walks Tony, because she had heard about the college and met a friend of hers who was going to come to the college, etc., etc. There's a story there. And then she ended up there, and that's where we met. And that night she came to see me play. And, that sealed it, I think. It's like, okay, he can't speak or anything, but she can play or something. And she actually was impressed with the dance there. There was a dance department. And so she started taking Kathak dance there, and then we sort of, met more often. And then I asked her out, and then she had this great idea of what Indian musicians are, very, proper and vegetarians and all that stuff. So on our first date, I took her to Jack in the Box. That's all I could afford in those days. I mean, or maybe. And then we went into Sausalito, looked at the moon, had an ice cream, and so on. But I think what really clinched it was one night she lost her contact lens. It was dark on the street out there, outside on the street, and I found it. I mean, there it is. Street light is far away, but I found it, and so that really probably impressed the hell out of her, I must say. So that's the story of that.
That is an incredible story. Do you all ever perform together?
We have performed quite a lot together. We just recently played at the Kennedy Center with my Masters of Percussion and Princeton, and we played in India just last year. And earlier this year, Feb. So we played in India, and she's danced last year with me at Prithvi Theatre. So that happens, and I've also performed with my daughter here.
You preempted my question.
She's a ballet teacher, and this morning taught a Bollywood class, Bollywood dance class. Wow, and salsa and all that stuff. So we've performed together as family in Queen Elizabeth Hall in London and out here in Marin and places. So yeah, we work together. My older daughter. Oh, by the way, I'm now a certified grandfather.
Oh, congratulations!
Yes, So I'm trying 4 times as hard to look young. It's like, no, we have that, whatever.
You're succeeding brilliantly, let me just...
Well, yeah, it's a good paint job. It works. So, yeah, my older daughter has just had a baby who's about almost 11 months old in a few days, and who walked at 9.5 months. And so she's a filmmaker. She has produced 5 or 4 feature-length feature films with Shabana and various other people, and with Heather Graham and James Franco and all those guys and stuff. And her husband was first assistant director for this show called Scorpion. Okay, so everybody is an art. I'm very happy that the family has stuck to doing something creative, like people at Google do.
So the next question, actually, we're going to turn to the video. This is from Shruti Shrikanta, and she has a question about collaboration.
Okay.
Could we just roll the video, please?
Hi, I'm
How do you
Shruti. I
roll?
work in the Chrome team here at Google Mountain View. Thank you so much for coming here to speak with us today.
My pleasure.
I'm a huge fan, and I've been to many of your concerts. I especially love that you play with musicians from different parts of the world. So my question to you is about collaborating with musicians who practice different styles of music than you. Do you believe that they have to share a common vision about the music that you would like to create together? Or do you think that given enough time and mutual respect, any 2 musicians can create music that they both like and enjoy? Thank you very much.
Okay, well, there are many occasions where musicians are asked to come together, Okay, Mr. Herbie Hancock, Mr. Chick Corea, come and play together, or Shankar Mahadevan and Shivamani and Zakir Hussain will come together and play. So those are professional concerts where you are paid, you come and you play. And that can work quite well. But I feel up to a certain extent, the music that we play has a lot to do with spontaneity, has a lot to do with instant understanding and on-the-fly decision-making. For that, you have to know each other very well on all levels. You have to know the person, what his or her dislikes and likes are, in terms of food or films or politics or, anything, fashion or whatever. Apart from that, what his or her family is like and how they relate to music. And so I found over the years is that I've worked with many, many musicians, whether it's John McLaughlin or Mickey Hart or Giovanni Hidalgo or Shivji, Hariji, Amjad Ali Khan Sahab, Shankar Mahadevan, Hariharan Bhai, so many others like you. Some of them I have stuck with, like I work with somebody called Yo-Yo Ma. Have you heard of Yo-Yo Ma? I was commissioned to write a piece for him, a bass player, a piano player and myself to play as music to be choreographed for a dance ballet by Mark Morris, a contemporary ballet composer. And so I did. But what's interesting is that happened and it has not happened again. And there may be many reasons. I mean, we know each other, we still socially say hello and stuff, but that kind of understanding of knowing each other on all layers was not established like it has with, say, banjo player Bela Fleck or Edgar Meyer or John McLaughlin or Mickey Hart, where we know each other inside and out. Our families know each other inside and out. We hang out together. We exchange recipes together. Edgar Meyer calls up and says, I want to make salmon curry. What do I do, How much ginger should I have? And then I arrive in his kitchen and there's like this much ginger. It's like, he said, is this enough? But anyway, so the thing is, that is very important because when you get on stage, you converse. Music, especially improvised form of music, I believe should be spoken like you speak English or Hindi or French or Italian. So it's a language. If you can form words, sentences, paragraphs, whatever, and tell a story in that language, you are actually improvising. Like right now, I'm improvising in English, which is not my first language. I did not grow up learning English. So when I finally came across English, I had to master it to a point where I could improvise in it. I could think in it and spontaneously, communicate with it. So if you can do that with the music, you actually learn how to improvise, how to be creative. Okay. That's important. So when you're playing with musicians, that's what you do. If I'm playing with Shankar Mahadevan, there would be a look exchanged and we'll know where we are going next. Or if I'm playing with John McLaughlin, there will be a phrase played and I'll know a chain of phrases that we will probably hop across and so can anticipate, because he's not just playing, he's speaking to me. So if he's playing, a melodic line, he's asking me, how about going here? Playing, and I'm replying saying, yeah, why not?
Okay.
And that has to happen. So that intimacy with each other on all levels accomplishes that. So that's very important when you're coming into a situation of playing with musicians of different genres of music, even musicians of Indian classical music. For instance, One of the pieces that I did before my symphony orchestra in London was with a sitar player known Niladri Kumar. We did a duet. But we just got on stage, we did a sound check, and we played. We never talked about what we were going to do. But what happens is this: you're sitting in the dressing room and you're talking about cricket, or you're talking about the weather, you're talking about politics, and you know, saying all sorts of saying, can Trump, do you believe, or some, you say all sorts of funny things and to each other, and so you kind of are gauging each other's mood at that moment, where one's mind is at that point. So, and you're talking and you're walking onto the stage while they are announcing you, and then you get on stage and you start playing, but without you knowing, that talk is now on the instruments, and you're speaking, continuing to speak as you do. When you go to a concert, sometimes find a way into the dressing room and see the musicians sitting there. They are talking about everything else in the world except music. Yeah, chai lao, pan lao, and anything about, did you hear what that person said? Did you know what this happened, and what kind of a car I want to buy, and all that stuff. Nothing about what should we be playing. Can you tell me the melody or what rhythm? Nothing. And then you go on stage and the conversation continues. So it's important. It doesn't matter whether you're playing with the musicians of same tradition of music that you are from or other traditions. You must intimately know them well to really on all levels interact and play music which has a spark of spontaneity in it. Otherwise, you can just accept a professional gig, take a fat check, and just get together, put together a couple of pieces and get on stage and play it and go away.
Got it. Cool. You mentioned you cook.
Oh, yeah.
Any favorite dishes?
Anything I cook is favorite. What are you talking about? No, I make good keema, I make chicken curry, different styles of chicken curry. I do eggs, not bad, and so when my daughters want some Indian, they just, hey Dad, cook up some chicken curry, will you? That happens, and so I cook, and all musicians are foodies. Yeah, when they come to the concert hall, the first thing they say to each other, where are we going for dinner? Concert hasn't even happened yet. We haven't even opened our instruments. We haven't tuned or anything or done a sound check. The first question is, where are we going for dinner? It's very important. That kind of expecting allows you to get excited about the journey of getting there. And that part of the journey is playing the music and getting that over with.
Switching gears a bit, we're at Google. Hard to avoid the topic of technology. What's your sense about technology, how it's affected you, how you think it's affected music?
Well, technology has actually broadened the way we think about music and we approach our instruments. Why even present technology? Go back 85, 90 years to the sound system, the amplification arriving. And that was really a big landmark happening. It really did a lot to change the way we perform music in India. And I think it's the same for music performed anywhere in the world. Would we have had stadium concerts if there was no sound system? No, not at all. And would we have had electric guitars and bass guitars and stuff if there was no sound system? No. So, music has obviously started changing from the time when the sound system arrived. Personally speaking, for me, I started to discover semitones, frequencies, microtones, resonance, harmonics in my instrument after the mic got put on it. And so suddenly something which was like pum is now boom, and something which was a boom is now boom. So now suddenly from that boom you can go boom, you can do that, which was not possible that long ago, 100 years ago. They played music differently. Very hard, very percussive. Even the sitar and the sarod and all was played very percussive. If you listen to a recording 70 years old and something, you will notice that the change is obvious how it is. So for me, having discovered the sound system and the frequencies, I mean, you also have to know what frequencies does the tabla project, and then how to find in the sound system graphic equalizer those frequencies and highlight them. So you got to learn to recognize all that stuff, and then once you highlight them, then you don't have to now bang. You don't have to wallop the instrument. You can just play nice and easy, subtle, too strong, whatever you want to do, and be able to manipulate the instrument not just rhythmically, but melodically. And that's what's happened with the tabla. Tabla has now become an instrument that is not just rhythmic instrument, it's a melodic instrument as well. And that's invention of the sound system. And then once you've got the sound system, you know, sky's the limit. You can now start putting Ableton Live on it, and you can start processing the sound. You can start putting delays and whatnot and everything. The question is, how far do you go with it? And that's very important. I know some friends of mine who are tabla players like Kirsch Kale or Talvin Singh and all. They have electrified the tablas. They've put electronic pickups into the instrument, and and they put a cable under the tabla and they put it through all these electronic sounds and machines. And that gives them a whole range of electronic tones, synthetic tones to work with. So, I mean, you can be in some ways pulled in by that, so much so that you actually forget what the real instrument actually is. So, I mean, unlike those gentlemen who have done that and have really taken the tabla into a whole new genre of music, which is drum and bass and Asian underground and etc., etc., and that's a great place. I have resisted the urge of doing that. I still play my acoustic tablas, and through a microphone, of course, and deal with the natural tone that comes out of that instrument. If I want to do electronical messing with it, I have found a system whereby I have this gear going through a computer where my microphones go through a sound card into that computer, so my instrument is not electronically plugged in. That is still acoustic. So I have a choice of hitting a button and suddenly turning my tabla into AI, artificial intelligence, or turning it off and just playing regular tabla. And so that has allowed me really a lot of leeway and kind of a gateway into playing with a whole different area of music and musicians. And so I'm now, right now it's under repairs, my system, and they are rebooting it and upgrading it and so on. Once it's done, I'm hoping to use it again and play for composing and stuff. I mean, that's what most of the musicians in India doing film music do. They now use a lot of electronic stuff to be able to write music and compose music and work at garage band as one of those kind of things. A very simple tool. Mm-hmm. So technology has most certainly given us a whole different insight into music, but the danger obviously is to, that we tend to pile it on so much so that the actual character of the music that we play, the instruments that we represent, kind of take the back seat. And so a balance has to be found.
Understood. Do you use YouTube yourself as a distribution mechanism? What are your thoughts on YouTube in terms of increasing the reach?
Well, first of all, I'm not Tube.
Okay. Got it. Us Tube.
That went like that, right? YouTube.
I got it.
If I look at you and say YouTube, you have to say no. So YouTube, yes. So YouTube is a great tool. It's amazing. I mean, there are discussions about whether the artists are getting the benefit of that vis-a-vis or in terms of economics, the financial benefits out of it. Most of the artists are not. Okay, I mean, the other day we were looking at YouTube or something, and there were some of my videos which had like 600,000 or some sort of viewership, and apparently there is a way to go about it and be part of it where royalties come in for that, but you have to go through so much rigmarole to be able to do that, it's almost like you throw up your hands and say, forget it. But so YouTube is a great tool to get music out there, to get information out there to people about what you're doing and where to come and see you and where to buy tickets and all that stuff and everything. Tweet is another one and all that stuff. But YouTube at least gives you an idea of, gives you a chance to be able to showcase whatever it is that you're going to be doing, say in a concert or on a concert tour and so on, so that people can actually get some kind of a trailer of it and be a little bit more informed to come when they come to see you. So in that sense, YouTube is a great tool. For me, it's been great to be able to hear music of the old masters that has been on YouTube. And it's like, I wonder, where did these people find this? I mean, there's a lot of stuff, and I listen to it, and that's like, gems that I can learn from, that I can, take information from, glean information from, and, just, develop my repertoire further and further. So in that sense, for me, keeping traditional music in view and great masters of that tradition from 1930s and 40s and 50s, and their presence on YouTube, it has become a great learning tool. So I have to say that in that sense, YouTube has more positives than negatives.
Understood.
Yes, but obviously there's always room for improvement.
Yes.
But musicians, whoever runs these programs or stations, should try to find a way to make it possible for the musicians to prosper as well.
Understood.
From whatever it is. I mean, I'm not saying that everyone is going to be looked at on YouTube forever. I mean, you hear of people who've had 2 million hits or 8 million hits or something, and they are making a decent amount of money from that. But then there are Indian musicians who really have no clue about how to go about doing that, and they just are not benefiting at all from it. So whoever is running YouTube should find a way to be able to be a little bit more concerned as a YouTube helm person about less fortunate musicians who need the help to be able to, keep delivering.
Keep that. Got it. Okay. I'm going to skip the next video question, but roughly it ties into the follow-up question which I have for you, which is, if you look around...
Glad you told me.
No, the reason is, I know they've been eagerly awaiting this particular one, but there's the, when you look at the younger generation, there's a sentiment, whether it's true or not is one question I have for you, but assuming it's true, the trend seems to be more towards fusion and away from, I'll say, pure classical music.
Okay.
First of all, do you think that is just an artificial sentiment, or is it something real you perceive?
Well, I feel that there is an equal amount of interest in modern elements of fusion and the ancient elements of fusion. and I'm using the word fusion for ancient elements. Think about it. 1,000 years ago, in India, there existed a music called Prabandh Gaiki, Haveli Sangeet, Dhrupad. These were ancient forms of music which were played in the temples a lot. Then came the Muslims into India, and they brought this very learned Sufi, Turkish Sufi gentleman called Amir Khusro to India. Amir Khusro was a master of Kaul, Kalbana. These were Sufi forms of music, now popularly known as Qawwali. Kaul, Kalbana, now known as Qawwali. I should pause here and say Qawwali is actually the only seed Sufi form of music. Everything else is a copycat. Remember that. Amir Khusro was really, one of those person who believed in universality, humanity as being one, religious elements not being the divider. He was really taken by Prabandh Gaiki, Haveli Sangeet, and Dhrupad singing in the temples of India. And he took elements of those and combined it with the Sufi Kaul and Kalbana music. And he came up with a form of music which eventually got known as, or became popular as, Khayal. Khayal is the premier North Indian classical form of music that anybody from Bhimsen Joshi or Gangubai Hangal or Kishori Amonkar or Ravi Shankar ji or Vilayat Khan Sahab, Ali Akbar Khan Sahab, everybody plays Khayal. So fusion already took place then, already was in place. Now imagine this, in its seed form, it had its do's and don'ts and what to do. But over the years, other elements came into play. Musicians moved to different parts of the country, and then they were influenced by the folk music of that country, of that state or that region, and that fusion took place. And suddenly you started hearing Pahadi in classical music, or you started hearing Kajri or Chaiti or Dadra or Tumri into classical music, and all this fusion started to take place. So fusion is not something that is like today. It has been going on forever, so it's not a new thing. So all Indian students of Indian classical music tradition in India are already sitting on something that is a hybrid. Okay? And a mutated form. And so they're playing that. Then came the sound system that changed the way the instruments are played, music is played, another fusion. So that has happened. So what I'm trying to say is that when you talk about fusion, you have to understand that fusion is already in Indian classical music. Fusion is also considered the domain of something that requires drums and bass and keyboards and whatnot. No, not true. So, in my 1960s and stuff, I used to hear Qawwali singers singing Qawwali with dholak players, tabla players, mandolins, banjos, all that stuff in an amplifier or something. So even the Sufi music at that point became fusion. So that happened. So my understanding of this, keeping all this in mind, is that there is an equal audience for traditional music and the way it's growing. It's still changing. It's still mutating. So that's what's happening with it. And then there's the fusion, known as fusion world these days. Like for instance, I played with Hariharanji in Civic San Jose, He sang ghazals. Ghazal is an old form. But he had a guitar player, he had a keyboard player, he had me playing tabla, and I also had some kind of a drum setup thing. So he's singing ghazals. That is the form that's going on. What you have done is you've put a more, today's rhythmic and melodic harmonic ideas onto it, but the core element is the same. So whether that is fusion or not, I don't know.
Okay.
So the core element is the same. Where fusion appeared in Bollywood was way back in 1940s, when music directors started using violins and cellos and whatnot. I remember playing recordings for music composers like Roshan or Madan Mohan or Jayadev or Shankar Jaikishan and so on. I grew up in that world. And we'd be in the room, believe it or not, the room was probably 10% of this size. Just like one angle like this. And at one end, there were 2 tables, tabla, dholak, and a couple of chairs, meaning kanjari wala and, shaker wala, that stuff. And 1 microphone in the middle. Okay, so if they wanted to hear more of my bass drum, they'd say, move the bass drum a little forward. There was an adjustment in the booth. You had to adjust it yourself. So that was the thing. Then just directly across from me at the other end of the room were about 35, 40 chairs, violins, violas, cellos, they were all laid out. On the left of them were the bass, left of the bass were the piano. On opposite side of the piano was another microphone, and around that microphone on tables raised sat cross-legged Hari Prasad Chaurasia on flute, Sultan Khan on sarangi, Rais Khan on sitar. They all sat over there. And all of us, and including the horn players who were between the rhythm players and the violin, standing in the center with saxophone, trumpet, trombone, all that, they were there. And we are all playing for a song, sung in the booth by Lata Mangeshkar or Mohammad Rafi and so on. And in those days, you had to play the song through. If somebody made a mistake, you stop and you did it all over again. These days you can sing 1 word, stop, sing 2 words, stop, sing a line, stop, and not just that, sing 1 word 500 times, sing 2 words 1,000 times, and so on, and then pick the best. It wasn't like that, but that was also fusion. And so fusion started way back then, and then R.D. Burman took it to a different level, LP took it to a different level, Bappi Lahiri brought it down to a different level. And so on and on happened. But all I'm trying to say is that you heard fusion in Madan Mohan's song, and they were some of the most beautiful songs that you will ever hear. You heard some of the great old songs of Lakshmikant Pyarelal, fabulous. Roshan tumhi se duniya, रौनक तुम ही जहाँ की, फूलों में पलने वाली, रानी हो गुलसितां की, सलामत रहो. One of the earlier songs of LP. I played it. So these kind of, songs were already there. So fusion is good. Fusion is acceptable. Fusion is the next wave. And when you say the next wave, it's not like for the next 6 months. It's been there for the last 15, 20, 30 years. And it'll go on. And until somebody finds another word, refusion or diffusion or C-fusion or confusion or whatever. They'll find words that will be different. When John McLaughlin and I and L. Shankar on the violin and Vikku Vinayakaram on the ghattam got together and played a band called Shakti. And we recorded. You can clap, it's okay. I'll act properly demure and anyway. So when we played and the recording was made, the head of CBS, Clive Davis, says to John, what should we call this? John said, I don't know, Zakir. I said, I don't know. It's music. We had no clue what we were doing. For us, it was just music. It wasn't like a little of jazz, a little of Indian, a little of South Indian, and some Qawwali rhythms and all that, and let's call it, confusion. None of that. We had no clue. So for us, it was just music. So when musicians get together to play from different genres, they don't think that they are creating a particular kind of fusion music. They are creating music. They are doing a creative process, which they are enjoying and so on. So, but Clive Davis says, but John, I really need to know what to call it, because then I can label it and put it in the right bin in Tower Records. So, and then we can also, put it in the right category for the Billboards Award or whatever on that. So they needed to make a category. So when we started doing that, there wasn't even a word fusion. There wasn't even a word new age or anything. When Madan Mohan did his songs or Shankar Jaikishan did his song, there was no fusion word or anything. But it was all happening. And it started way back then. So whether it's China, Japan, you name it, they all have influences from different parts of the world. Wherever the Raj went, I mean British Raj, and wherever the French went, or they all brought whatever they brought, and it just kind of made it. So now what's happened, which I like very much, is that the lines are blurred. Blurred in the sense that it used to be that fusion music can only be in the Western world, and so it was legit. But now people all over the world are able to make music, whether it's in Mali or Senegal or in, Mauritius or in Tokyo or wherever, and they are all playing music which has an interesting drive towards universality. Instruments are common, thought processes are common, and people are starting to make music, whether it's Japan or China or India or wherever, that stands on its own anywhere in the world. And Bollywood is a great example of it. It stands on its own right here in America. And people go to hear it and see it. And I'm not just talking about us desis, I'm talking about the natives. Right? And they all love to go and hear this kind of music and everything. And so it's fusion. I don't know if it's a category anymore, because that means that you've tried to divide the music up in different. Right now, the music is experiencing a universal understanding, a collective acceptance, no matter where in the world. So they might have to come up with a new name.
Got it.
I didn't mean to lecture you, but actually I did.
That was a beautiful performance, by the way, that you just slipped in right there. And earlier when we were chatting, you're talking about Frank Sinatra.
I've heard of him.
So,
He's one
would
of
you
my
care to
favorite.
indulge us with a little bit of your own version of Frank Sinatra?
You know his songs, right? Fly me to the moon, let me play among the stars, let me see what spring is like on Jupiter or Mars. In other words, something like that.
Trying to stick on that theme, would you care to indulge us with a little bit?
Stay on the moon?
I am on the moon right now, I'll be honest and confess.
Chand phir nikla.
There is this tradition of Padhant.
Padhant, yes, there is a tradition.
Would you explain what it is and maybe give us a small demonstration?
Well, Padhant is exactly what the word represents. In India, when you ask somebody to read, you say Padh or Padho. And what he reads is known as Padhant. Okay? So, as I said, music or rhythm, they are all languages. You learn to speak it, and therefore you also learn to read it. So if you've written a story, you have to read it. So the story is about dha. Okay? Dha. So dha is friends with Tete, and his girlfriend is Tinna, and the villain is Gaina. There's got to be a villain, or else the story is not interesting. You know. So dha, Tete, they are, you know, dha Tete, dha Tete, Tete, dha dha Tete, dhage Tinna, Gaina. So I'm telling you a story, okay? So in other words, I'm also reading what I have thought of or written, and so I'm doing the padhant. I am padhing, you know? And so this is what padhant is. So when I'm learning the language, my father used to tell me, take a phrase and, you know, just get to know it. Like as if it's a person, it's a character. Get to know it. Dhati dagate nagena. Suppose that's a phrase. Dhati dagate nagena. Dhati dagate nagena. Dagena te nagena. Ti dagate nagena. Gena dagate nagena. Tina dagate nagena. Dagena dagena te nagena. Dagena te na. Gena dagate nagena. Dhati dagena ti da. Gena dagena dagate na. Gena te na. Dagena dagate nagena. So this is a phrase which appears like this. And what I have to do is look at it like this, like this, like this, like this, all direction. So I've got to figure out how many ways can I use that word in a phrase or a sentence or a paragraph. So that's what padhant is all about. So if I'm, and maybe that's where rap first came from, you know. So if I'm going, da tete da tete dagate nagena da da tete tete da tete dagate nagena da tete da tete dagate nagena da da tete tete da tete dagate nagena. It's straightforward, boom boom. But if I tell you to, you know, every other one clap, if I'm doing this 1 2 1 2, and if you clap on 2, right, just on 2, not on 1, 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2, so it suddenly becomes a groove, like a drum groove, right? So it's not just robotic this. Da tete da tete dagate nagena da da tete tete da tete dagate nagena da tete da tete dagate nagena da da tete tete da tete dagate nagena da. Right? So basically, now you feel the groove and you can move to it. Gena dagena dagatena dagena dagatena gena gena dagena dagatena gena gena dagena dagatena dagena dagatena gena gena dagena dagatena gena da tete da dagena tete da dagena tete dagena dagena dagatena gena kritika kritika da dagena dagatena gena tete gena da dagena dagatena gena dagatete dagate kritika gena dagatena gena da dagena dagatena gena tete da gena. I am taco talking to you.
So, even in the short time
So
that
what?
you've been with her, the amount of knowledge you've imparted is amazing.
Really?
And we've had the pleasure of, I think,
Okay,
some
how
of
many
your-
gigabytes is it?
I'm an old school guy, so I've got only 64 kilobytes.
Okay.
So, very little RAM up there. But we have some of your students, I believe, here personally. And more importantly, some of them have helped us put a short little surprise for you.
Oh boy.
That we'd like to...
I love surprises.
So, if you can get that video rolling.
Roll the video. कौन है? This guy thinks he's an actor.
For being in our lives and enriching our lives and blessing us with the opportunity to learn Hindustani classical music.
Stop
from
being
you.
so serious.
Thank you for bestowing upon us this beautiful art of tabla, rhythm, percussions. We're truly grateful. I just wanted to say we love you. Thank you so much. Big hugs.
Hey, you're not
Pranam.
saying it with the click properly.
A lucky student of Ustad Zakir
Uh-oh.
Hussain's. It's been almost, I don't know, 27 or 28 years now. And the first
He's
time
showing he's got a
I
lot
met
of
our
tablas.
guru, was on a VHS tape, 1988, at my grandfather's house. And ever since that day, it was love at first sight for me. I really consider myself one of the luckiest people on this planet, and am very, very fortunate to have learned and continue to learn from one of the greatest masters, teachers, friends in the world.
Thank you so much for everything you have taught me. You are everything I aspire to be. Word cannot express the depth of my gratitude, but hopefully this can.
You get the last word in, huh?
So
Only the tie was missing. Yeah.
we close with one question. As you look at things like YouTube, Google, are there things that you'd like to see us doing, whether from a technology perspective to help music or just humanity?
But Google, I would have to say that the technology that you are involved in, I would imagine you would say it's in its infancy. It has a long ways to go, and the sky is the limit, and you seeing that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but it's like looking at the sun setting and wanting to touch it, and it's way out there. And it's like with music, it's about the journey. You will never be perfect. There's no such thing as being perfect. But the point is, you try to be as best as you can. I heard from a great jazz musician named Charles Lloyd. Somebody asked him and said, "Master, you were perfect tonight." And he said that I said, "I haven't played good enough to quit." That is a very deep statement. If you think you've done the best you can, you might as well hang up your boots, power down. So that's not what this technology is. This technology actually expects that you'll be on full power all the way through, whatever that future is. And so there are many aspects of web technology and whatnot that you're involved in, and I imagine that it keeps getting better and better, and you're finding new ways to be able to make it more user-friendly and so on, and there's always a fight between Google Maps and Apple Maps, and when I'm sitting in the car, my wife's like, Google, and my daughter is like, Google Map, and I'm like, no, Apple Map, and then we're like not sure which one, but then we finally end up with Waze, I don't know. No, but the technology is still blossoming, and there's a lot that's going on, which, it's like you find something and you share it today, and tomorrow it's obsolete. And so it's kind of hard to tell what you should improve on. I imagine that every aspect or subject that you have introduced in the world of Google or Google, you will constantly be upgrading or making better or making more user-friendly and easy to handle for dumb bums like me. But apart from that, all I can say is just, more power and go for it.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
It's been an absolute honor. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. We look forward to your next visit already.
Thank you.
And again, thanks everyone. Let's have a huge round of applause again.
Jo wada kiya wo